Hi everyone, this is the last MazeRunner live coding. So I'm not even going to write much code today, or maybe nothing at all. We're just going to look at how I cleaned up MazeRunner. So let me start by showing you how it looks now. If I run it, you'll see that I have added a few things. First, I added this border around the middle squares. So I introduced a few variables to make the screen wider, in fact, and a little taller. I also added this line right at the top that says MazeRunner and a key counter and a score counter. So that's also new. And then a couple of other things I did was to increment the score when you collect a diamond, so you get 10 points for that. And I decided not to go look for another big maze on the internet, because this maze is fine actually. I just opened up a few spaces, and what I really want to do is to add features to the game. I don't need a final maze for that. I can later design a nice, interesting maze, but I can, in this maze, add the features and make sure that they work. So here are a few more diamonds and a key to collect. And when I collect a key, my key count actually also goes up and the score is increased because I collected those diamonds. You can create little puzzles in even a simple maze like this. So here I am with 2 doors and 1 key. If I open the bottom door, I will use up my key. And then I'm faced with another door that I do not have a key for. So it's a mistake to go down. I have to go up and collect these 2 keys. And now I can go down. And as you see, if I move through a door, I open it, but I also lose the key. So there you go. That's the behavioral changes I've made to MazeRunner. Let's look at some other stuff that I've changed. So one thing I did was to reorganize my assets. I created 3 subfolders, one for the mazes, one for the sprites, and another one for a font that I decided to use, which simply, it's just a lot of characters that are in image form. And you'll see at the bottom there's a routine to access those images. And well, I'll show you now. I created a routine that's called write text, and it actually writes the string by drawing character by character my font characters on the screen. So a couple of things have changed, but probably the most important is that I now have global variables to keep track of my score and my keys, and I display these counts when I redraw the maze. I also introduced a couple of constants to tell me how much room at the top I need for the font, the characters, and also for the border. And I added a door open element to my maze so that I can replace closed doors with open doors as I walk through them. So I'm not going to dive into the details of the code. What I will do is soon I'll export this project, show you how to import it, and put it on the SunLearn website. I know if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not doing the course, you have no idea what SunLearn is. And maybe in the future I will link, I'll add a link to a publicly available space where you can download this code, but for now the focus is on my students. Before I show you how to export and import, I want to talk about what I really want, what you could do with this project in the future. So there are so many things to add, and it could actually become a very nice game. So I have a couple of ideas that I'll tell you about, which are nice projects, but which I'll not pursue now. One thing is to have different colored keys and different colored doors, so that you need to collect the right key for the right door. And this is all to help us make more interesting puzzles in this game. Of course, you can add more treasures, different jewels, gold, coins, treasure chests, all kinds of stuff. This game is actually based on a really old game from the 80s called Repton, and that's probably based on even older games, Boulder Dash and others that were available in the 80s that I played as a kid. And Repton had boulders that you can push around. So that's something to add. Objects you can push against that'll move. You can have portals that teleport you from one part of the maze to another, which means that you can make parts of the maze that's isolated. You can't access them except if you go through the right port or portal. Enemies. We can have randomly moving monsters that kill you when you touch them. We can have monsters that actually chase the player actively, so try to catch the player. And then there can be weapons that either destroy enemies or that can protect you against their against death, I guess. Music. Every game needs music. At the moment you always start at position 3-3 in the maze, but that should really go into the maze file so that you can start at any point in the maze. Then you can have many different mazes that the player needs to complete one by one, and for that you also need a way to finish the maze, either by collecting all the treasure in the maze or killing all the enemies or reaching a certain point. That's kind of like an exit point, and that's probably the way I do it. And lastly, in the original game you also had dirt that you would actually dig through, and that'd be something like a boulder surrounded by dirt, and if you dig out the dirt, the boulder would fall down due to gravity, and that could kill you. So that was another, and that actually adds a lot of potential for interesting puzzles where you have to move in just the right way to avoid these boulders. And lastly, I think you can have special access that will allow you to break up rocks, not the walls of the maze, because they have to stay at least around the outside, so we don't wander off the screen. But there's a lot of potential in this little game. At one point I thought of actually creating a kind of a treasure where if you pick up the treasure you have to answer some kind of programming question, and gamifying in that way programming, teaching you to program, so you can only progress if you can solve a small programming puzzle. But in the end it was too much work and distributing it would have been hard, so we did not do that. Okay, right, so that is all we'll see of MazeRunner. All I want to show you still is how do we export projects from Eclipse, and how can you import them again. So I'm going to right click on MazeRunner and I'm going to go to export. So this is actually the easy part. I'm going to say general archive file, and I'm going to say next, and now it'll show me a list of all my projects, and I can individually select what I want to export, but let's not bother with that. Let's export all of it, and I have to type some kind of archive file. So I'm going to type my user directory desktop MazeRunner.zip, mr.zip. So on my desktop, create directory structure, yes. Only selected directories, no. You shouldn't need to change any of this. The only thing you should really make sure of is that you are saving it in zip format. So let's finish. Right. If I have a look at my desktop, we'll see that it has actually created the file, that zip file, on the desktop. So I can now send this or put it on Sunlearn. I can send it to someone by email. And then if I want to import such a zip file, of course I can't import it as MazeRunner because I already have that project, but I think we can tweak it so we don't have to do that. Now, very important, when you import this project, don't pick archive file again. Pick existing projects into Workspace and say next, and then you say select archive file, and I'll browse to my desktop, and it'll show me what's inside the desktop. And in fact, I can't even select MazeRunner because it clashes with a project I already have. But if I didn't have MazeRunner, I could click there to select import MazeRunner, and I'd be able to click on finish here at the bottom, and that project would simply be pulled into my Eclipse and I could work on it. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I loved writing this little game, and I think it worked out well. There's still a lot of potential to expand it, but I think I'll focus on other stuff for now. Thank you for watching all of this. I know it's been a long journey, and the other live coding videos will be much shorter, I promise. Thanks.